Hey guys, welcome back. And it is looking more and more likely that Kamala Harris can make a political comeback in the years, of course, following her loss in the 2024 presidential race. As you can see here, there's new reporting from Politico that she is speaking, of course, to her closest advisors, closest friends, closest allies in politics, and she's saying reportedly she's repeating to all these people, I'm staying in the fight. She's clearly not done with her political journey. She doesn't just want to retire, that is for certain. So many have speculated that she will run for governor of California in 2026 if Gavin Newsom, I don't know if Gavin Newsom is term limited, but I know he is stepping down. And a lot of people see that as a clear opportunity, with Harris being the former vice president, to just have a clear path to establish herself once again in American politics. And as you can see here, many speculate that she could run for president again. And that is what we will be talking about here. This would certainly be an interesting case. You very rarely have a candidate lose an election, a presidential election, and then run again at all in the next election, let alone be nominated. I mean, I think that the last time that happened was in 1956 with Adlai Stevenson versus Dwight D. Eisenhower. So it's very unusual. And at first, I really didn't think that Harris would run in 2024, and I probably, I'm sorry, in 2028. I'm so used to saying 24, and I still don't think that it is, the most likely scenario that she does run. But the fact that it really is on the table and that she is extremely interested in it is, really confuses me. I think that Kamala Harris really, looking at the potential candidates in 2028, as we see here, just some of them. I'm sure there will be so many more, or maybe some of these people won't run at all. But I think that Kamala Harris really, holds heavy the fact that she lost to Donald Trump. I think that she cares about that deeply. Reading about her 2020 presidential bid, her biggest fear was being nominated and then losing to Trump. It took 4 years, but that is exactly what ended up happening. I think that, especially if the Trump presidency is a disaster, and it's extremely unpopular and whatever his plans and his policies completely fail, I think that Kamala Harris will recognize that it, basically was her fault losing to him in 2024, and she wouldn't want to risk doing that once again in 2028. Ultimately, if she did, it would just really surprise me if she did run at all, and if she does run, I mean, this is pretty expected, right? We have polling. We have two polls after the election where we see Harris giant leads over her competitors. Echelon Insights has her at 41% of the vote. Newsom in second, all the way down at 8. And then Shapiro at 7. No one else even comes close. Buttigieg at 6. Tim Walz at 6. And then AOC, Gretchen Whitmer, JB Pritzker, Andy Bashir, Cory Booker, etc. In the other poll from Morning Consult, she's at 43. In second place is P at 9%. Still, no one even gets close. So, as of now, obviously this will change, right? There's a recency bias. Kamala Harris is still the vice president of the United States. But as years go on, Democrats are going to forget about her. They're going to see more of people like Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro on TV, or Pete Buttigieg, whoever it may be, and say, "Oh, I really like those guys." Yeah, now when I'm answering in a primary poll, I'm going to say one of them instead of, Harris, just because she is the vice president and really the only one that I know about well. So you'd expect it. But as of right now, if Harris keeps these numbers up, the nomination is all hers, and I think that would be a driving factor, for her to run. The fact that even without being an official candidate, she were leading in many of these polls, right? In a bunch of these polls, and the average or whatever by a lot too. That would certainly be a force, as any person running for office. If you're not even a candidate and you're leading the polls, that would definitely encourage you to hop into the race. Now, as for the actual primary, I think that, it's unfair to say that she wouldn't be favored to win in a primary. I think she would. I think that people would run against her. I really do. But I think that, in the bigger picture, whatever, even if she does run or not, the bigger picture is that Democrats cannot nominate Kamala Harris if they want to win. And they cannot nominate anyone like Kamala Harris. That's people like Gavin Newsom. That's people like J.B. Pritzker. I think that Josh Shapiro does have some, even though in terms of policy and stuff like that, he's the same. He's another neoliberal, but he does get an exception because of how charismatic he is, and his gubernatorial performance in 2022 in Pennsylvania showed us just that. But I think that as long as the Trump presidency isn't a disaster, even if it's unpopular, right? Even if people disapprove of it, against Vance, I think that JD Vance is a very winnable candidate. I believe that if the Democratic Party continues on the neoliberal track that they're on now, right? Affiliated, with the corporate world, right? Everything that Bernie Sanders warns against, basically, they continue down the path. Oh my God, the path, the trath. Oh my God, if they continue down the path that they're going now, with people like Kamala Harris, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, people like them, Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritzker, these more corporate affiliated neoliberal Democrats continuing to run the party, they are going to lose. 2024 was the clearest rejection probably we have ever gotten of that. And even more than 2016 based off of Trump's, now popular vote win. That's insane. A clear rejection of everything like that. Um, and so I honestly, again, I think that Harris would lose to Vance as long as the Trump presidency is somewhat stable. I think that Newsom loses to Vance. I think that Pritzker loses to Vance. I probably think that Whitmer loses to Vance. I think that Andy Bashir is absolutely winnable. Not tied up in the corporate world, everything not tied up in the neoliberalism. Nothing to haunt him like what Kamala Harris said in the 2020 primary. That came back to haunt her. Um, and ultimately, I think that people like Bashir could win. A rural progressive. Could you imagine that leading the Democratic Party? That's so different. A rural economic progressive. Such a different path than the corporate neoliberal path that the Democratic Party took in 2024 with Kamala Harris. They are two stark, different paths, and I think that the progressive path with Andy Bashir would win. As for Josh Shapiro, just talking about these candidates, as for Josh Shapiro, he's just a good candidate. I mean, he's a very strong candidate, but I think it would be an incredibly tight race with Vance. As for Wes Moore, I don't know about Wes Moore. He is neoliberal, but he's kind of like Shapiro. He's got that charisma where I do think that he could be Vance. But we'll see. But if Democrats follow in the Kamala Harris type tradition, they're going to lose. And, these, on the note of Andy Bashir, right? An economic progressive leading the path instead of a corporate neoliberal. He's the governor of Kentucky and he's a Democrat. Trump won Kentucky by 30 points, 30.7%. So, by going down this path, with nominating a Democrat who has won in the state of Kentucky and is a progressive, you're going to win back the Rust Belt easily. The blue wall. You'd look at probably Ohio become competitive. The Sun Belt is a little more tricky. It is. But whatever. It all depends on the coalition that he can build. So, Democrats cannot nominate Kamala Harris if they want to win, as well as Gavin Newsom, Pritzker, even Whitmer, etc. So, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later.